I shouldn't have knocked on her door that afternoon, but the sound of her struggling with the faucet carried through the thin walls, and I couldn't ignore it. "Need a hand?" I asked, half expecting her to say no. She looked up from the mess of dripping pipes, strands of hair clinging to her forehead. "Honestly, yes. I've been at this for an hour." That was the first time I saw her not perfectly put together. Her blouse was rolled at the elbows, damp from the spray, and her voice carried something unsteady beneath the calm. She was in her late 40s, confident in a way that never felt forced. A kind of presence that made you notice even when you weren't trying to. I crouched beside her, tightening the wrench with a grip that betrayed my nerves more than the pipe. She stayed close, closer than I expected. "You live alone?" I asked, trying to fill the silence. Her lips curved, not quite a smile, not quite an answer. "My husband's gone," she said finally. Then after a beat that felt longer than it should, "You're not." The words hung there, heavier than the air between us. I glanced at her, and she didn't look away. My chest tightened in a way I couldn't explain. I focused on the pipe again, though my hands weren't steady. She noticed. I could feel her eyes on me. "College boy with tools," she teased lightly, trying to ease the tension. "I'm not in college," I muttered. Her brow lifted. "You're younger than you look, then." She didn't ask my age. She didn't have to. The silence after was thick enough to say everything we were both pretending not to. When the leak finally slowed, I leaned back, wiping my hands on my jeans. She handed me a towel, her fingers brushing mine longer than necessary. Just skin against skin, but enough to make me forget what I was supposed to say next. "Thank you," she said softly. I should have left then. I almost did. But instead, I asked, "You okay?" She looked at me for a long moment, the kind of look that searches for something she wasn't sure she wanted to find. Her voice was quiet when it came. "Do I look okay?" I didn't answer. Couldn't. My throat was tight, and my pulse had gone wild. The room was too quiet. The faint drip of the faucet was the only sound. She stepped closer, just enough that I could feel the warmth of her presence. Not touching, not yet, but enough to make me dizzy. Her hand hovered near mine again, hesitating, as if testing the distance between what was right and what we both suddenly wanted. "Stay a minute," she whispered, and I did. I told myself it was just the neighborly thing to do, sitting at her kitchen table with a mug of coffee she insisted on pouring. But the truth was, my chest hadn't stopped buzzing since she asked me to stay. The sunlight through her curtains lit the room in soft gold, catching on the faint lines near her eyes. Lines that didn't make her look older, just real. I tried not to stare, but every time she looked down, every time she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, I couldn't stop. She noticed. "You're quiet," she said, stirring her coffee slowly. "I guess I don't know what to say," I admitted. Her gaze lingered, steady enough to make me shift in my chair. Then she set the spoon down with a soft clink. "You're not supposed to be here, you know." The words cut sharper than I expected. "Because of your husband?" She didn't answer right away. She traced the rim of her mug instead, her fingers circling, like she needed something to do with her hands. Finally, she whispered, "Because of me." I swallowed hard, pretending to take a sip of my coffee. It had gone lukewarm, bitter, but I didn't care. She leaned back, letting out a breath that sounded heavier than the words themselves. "I don't usually let people in. Not like this." That was when I saw it, the faint tremor in her hand, quickly hidden as she folded her arms. She wasn't as unshakable as she seemed. "Then why me?" The question slipped out before I could stop it. Her eyes flicked to mine. For a second, I thought she might actually answer. But instead, she said softly, "Don't make me explain." The silence after was louder than any reply could have been. My mind ran in loops. Was it loneliness? Was I just someone who happened to knock on her door at the right or wrong time? Or was it more than that? I shifted again, trying to focus on the faint hum of the refrigerator. Anything but the way her knee brushed mine under the table when she crossed her legs. It was probably an accident. I told myself that, but I didn't move my leg away. "You ever wish you could just stop pretending?" she asked suddenly. Her voice cracked just slightly on the word pretending. I didn't trust myself to answer. My fingers tightened around the mug instead, knuckles white. She noticed that too. Her hand moved, slow, deliberate, until it rested on my forearm. Warmth spread through me like a fuse had been lit. "You don't have to go yet," she said quietly. I opened my mouth, but the words tangled, unspoken. All I managed was a nod. And just like that, leaving wasn't an option anymore. Her hand was still on my arm when the phone rang. We both froze. The sound cut sharp through the quiet kitchen, but she didn't move to answer it. Neither did I. We just sat there, her fingers still warm against my skin, the ringing getting louder with every second. Finally, it stopped. She pulled her hand back slowly, as if she just realized what she was doing. "Sorry," she murmured. "Don't be," I said too quickly. That made her eyes flick up to mine. For a breath, it felt like we were standing on the edge of something we couldn't name. I looked away first, pretending to study the half-empty sugar jar on the table. My heart was beating too fast. "You're easy to talk to," she said after a pause. I laughed softly, though it came out awkward. "I barely said anything. That's why." The way she said it, quiet, like a secret, made my throat tighten. I wanted to tell her I noticed everything. The way she fidgeted with her wedding band even though she'd just told me her husband was gone. The way her voice dropped when she let her guard slip. The way she looked at me like she wasn't supposed to. But I didn't. Instead, I shifted back in my chair, putting space between us. "Maybe I should go." She tilted her head, studying me. "You don't want to." I opened my mouth, closed it again. She wasn't wrong. Before I could answer, there was a knock at the front door. My stomach lurched. She went still, listening. Another knock, louder this time. Her eyes widened, panic flickering before she smoothed it away. "Stay here," she whispered, standing quickly. I sat frozen, listening as she walked down the hall, her footsteps measured, too careful. A muffled exchange followed. A neighbor, maybe, or a delivery. I couldn't make out the words, only her voice, a little higher, a little too polite. When she came back, she leaned against the doorframe for a moment, closing her eyes before she returned to the table. "Just Mrs. Daniels," she said with a forced smile. "She wanted to borrow sugar." I nodded, trying to ignore the knot in my chest. "Thought it was someone else." "Who?" I shrugged. "Doesn't matter." She moved closer again, this time not hesitating. Her hand brushed mine on the table, barely there but enough to send heat rushing through me. "You're trembling," she whispered. I didn't even try to deny it. She leaned in, her breath warm against my cheek. "Tell me you don't want this, and I'll stop." My lips parted, but the words wouldn't come. And for the first time, I wasn't sure I wanted them to. I don't remember moving closer, but suddenly the space between us was gone. Her knee brushed mine again, deliberate this time. I shouldn't be here, I said, though I didn't stand. Her eyes held mine, steady and unflinching. Neither should I. The honesty in her voice rattled me more than any touch could. My chest tightened as if I'd been waiting years to hear her say something like that. She looked down at her hands, fingers twisting in her lap. Do you know how long it's been since I felt noticed? I swallowed hard. My throat felt dry, but the words came anyway. I notice. Too much. That made her look up. Whatever she saw in my eyes made her inhale sharply, like she hadn't expected me to admit it. You're young, she whispered, almost as if warning herself. You say that like it changes what's happening right now. Her lips parted, but no sound came. She reached for her mug, then set it down again without drinking. Her hand lingered on the handle, trembling slightly. You make it sound simple, she said finally. It is. My voice was lower than I meant it to be. I can't stop thinking about you. The confession sat between us, heavy, impossible to take back. She leaned back slowly, exhaling like she'd been holding her breath for days. You don't know what you're asking for. Then tell me, I said. Tell me, and I'll walk out that door. Her eyes searched mine, as if testing whether I meant it. The silence stretched, broken only by the faint tick of the kitchen clock. Instead of answering, she stood. My heart dropped, until she walked to the window and pulled the curtain closed. The room dimmed, suddenly smaller, more intimate. She turned back to me, her expression unreadable. If you stay, there's no going back. I pushed back from the table, standing slowly. My pulse hammered in my ears. Do you want me to leave? My voice cracked, and I hated that it did. She stepped closer, close enough that I could see the faintest freckles across her collarbone, the rise and fall of her breath. I want you to be sure. I should have answered. I should have said something to cut through the tension strangling the air. Instead, I just looked at her, the silence louder than words. Her hand rose halfway, hovering near my chest like she was about to touch me, but stopped. We stood there, caught in that pause, everything unspoken pressing down harder than any touch could. And then she whispered, barely audible, So, what happens now? Her question hung in the dim kitchen. So, what happens now? I opened my mouth, but before I could speak, her phone lit up on the counter. The name flashing on the screen made her freeze. I saw it before she could turn it over. Daniel, her husband. I blinked, confused. I thought you said. Her hand shot out, silencing the phone, her face pale. He's gone, she said quickly. But not gone. The words felt like a stone dropping into my stomach. You mean? She nodded barely. He left. Months ago. But he still calls. Checks in. Like he's still here. The air shifted, heavy and complicated. I stepped back without meaning to, as if I'd just realized how close I'd been standing. You think I'm awful now, don't you? She whispered. I should have answered. I should have reassured her. But all I could manage was, why tell me I was the only one? Her eyes shone in the dim light. Because you are. He's not here. Not really. You're the only one who sees me anymore. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But my chest felt tight, caught between relief and doubt. I thought her loneliness was simple. Now it wasn't. She stepped closer, her hand trembling as it reached for mine. Don't pull away, she pleaded. I'm not. My voice broke. I don't want to be some stand-in. You're not, she said fiercely, surprising herself with the sharpness in her tone. Then softer, almost breaking. "You're not." For a long moment, neither of us moved. The clock ticked, steady, unforgiving. Then I noticed something on the table. An envelope, half hidden under yesterday's newspaper. My name written across it. I frowned. "What's that?" Her eyes widened. Too wide. "It's nothing." But my fingers were already pulling it free. Inside, a short note, written in careful script. "For the boy next door. Thank you for helping her when I couldn't." I stared at the words, the blood rushing in my ears. "He knows," I whispered. She closed her eyes, pressing her hands to her face. "He left it weeks ago. Said he couldn't give me what I needed. Said maybe someone else could." My chest ached with something I couldn't name. Jealousy, yes, but also something heavier. "So all this time," I said slowly, "he knew? He wanted this." She lowered her hands, meeting my gaze. Her eyes were wet, but steady. "No, I wanted this." The silence that followed was unbearable, filled with everything we hadn't said. I set the note down carefully, my hand brushing hers as I did. "Then tell me it's real. Tell me I'm not just filling the space he left." She didn't answer right away. Instead, she leaned in, her lips inches from mine. And just before they touched, she whispered, "You're not." Her whisper still burned in the air between us. "You're not." Something in me broke loose. All the hesitation, all the second-guessing. I couldn't hold it anymore. I leaned in, closing the distance we'd been circling for hours. Our lips met, soft at first, then deeper, like we'd both been holding our breath too long. Her hand rose to the back of my neck, fingers trembling but sure. When we finally pulled apart, she stayed close, forehead resting against mine. Her breath hitched. "We can't undo this now." "I don't want to," I whispered. Her eyes searched mine, desperate for something she hadn't dared hope for. "You'll regret it. You're young. Someday you'll look back and—" I cut her off, not with another kiss but with words I'd been afraid to say. "The only thing I'd regret is walking out that door." Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, but nothing came out. She looked away instead, blinking back a sheen of tears. "I wasn't supposed to feel this," she murmured. I brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. "Neither was I." The kitchen felt too small, the air too thick. But I didn't move. Couldn't. My hand slid down to hers on the table, fingers threading gently through hers. She didn't pull away. "You'll still think about him," I said quietly. "You'll still wonder if he's coming back." Her grip on my hand tightened. "Maybe. But right now, I just want you." The honesty in her voice hit harder than any kiss could. She wasn't promising forever. She wasn't pretending this would be easy. She was just telling me the truth, raw and unpolished. I let out a shaky breath, finally smiling, small, uncertain, but real. "Then that's enough." She leaned in again, her lips brushing mine in a kiss that wasn't rushed, wasn't desperate this time, just steady, certain. When we pulled apart, the world outside the curtains felt far away. Her thumb traced a line over my knuckles. "Stay," she whispered. "Not just tonight. Stay." I nodded, heart pounding so hard it hurt. "I will." And for the first time, neither of us looked away. The morning light slipped through her curtains, softer than the night before, but no less revealing. I lay there on the edge of her bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathe beside me. Every part of me said I should feel guilty, nervous, something heavy. Instead, I felt present, Like for the first time in a long while, I was exactly where I was supposed to be. She stirred, rolling onto her side to face me. Her hair was a little messy, her eyes still heavy with sleep, and somehow she looked more beautiful than she had last night. "Still here?" she murmured, her voice low, almost disbelieving. "I said I'd stay," I whispered back. She smiled faintly, a smile that held both relief and fear. "You'll change your mind, you know. Someday." I shook my head. "Maybe. But if I do, at least I won't regret this." Her hand reached across the sheets, fingers brushing mine. That small touch carried more weight than the hours before. It wasn't about passion anymore. It was about choice. For a long time, neither of us said anything. The quiet felt safe now, not heavy, like we didn't need to fill it. Finally, she whispered, "I thought I was done being seen, noticed, wanted." I turned my hand, lacing our fingers together. "You were wrong." Her eyes shone, and for the first time since I'd known her, she didn't try to hide it. We stayed like that, holding on to the fragile truth we'd built. Maybe the world outside would complicate it. Maybe tomorrow would be harder. But right then, in that quiet morning light, none of that mattered. I realized then that what we'd found wasn't just about crossing a line. It was about refusing to keep living half-hidden. She let out a breath that sounded like release. "You've ruined me," she teased softly, though her eyes said something else. "You've saved me." I smiled, squeezing her hand. "Guess we'll ruin each other." And we stayed there, two flawed people who'd stopped pretending, finally choosing not to look away. Sparkles, did you enjoy the story? Speech Balloon, what kind of stories would you like to hear next?